Good morning. Welcome back to Venture Daily. On today's show, Wall Street hired an AI engineer named Devin who writes code like a human, and he might soon have thousands of clones replacing junior developers.
And Trump's new One Big Beautiful bill promises more American rare earth mining, but kills the clean energy incentives that made those mines worth building. I'm Josiah Simons.
I'm Jackson Fordyce. It's Monday, July 14th. Let's get you smarter before your first meeting. Marjorie Taylor Greene wants answers, and this time she's pointing her congressional flashlight at the sky.
The Georgia Congresswoman says she's launching a formal investigation into geoengineering, the idea of causing changes to the weather by spraying chemicals in the air.
She says weather modification is no longer a conspiracy theory.
And the push comes after floods in Texas sparked rumors that cloud seeding caused the disaster, a theory that experts have already called, quote, literally impossible.
But Greene says she's dead serious. She even wants to make it a felony to alter weather using chemicals.
EPA Chief Lee Zeldin released a video empathizing with public concerns about contrails and geoengineering, but pointed to new EPA pages that mostly debunk chemtrails and related theories.
Democrats are mocking him, scientists are exasperated, and somewhere the actual clouds are asking, can we please be left out of this?
All right, Jackson, what do we have today on the menu for Venture Daily?
On the menu, Goldman Sachs just hired an AI engineer named Devin who never sleeps, never takes PTO, he's just like me, and might be better than your best coder. Developed by startup Cognition, Devin is being tested to join the ranks of the bank's 12,000 human developers.
Goldman's tech chief says hundreds or even thousands of Devins could be deployed depending on demand. Unlike chatbots that assist with emails or summaries, Devin can execute full stack engineering projects from start to finish.
Goldman believes this could boost developer productivity by 3 to 4 times and sees it as the beginning of a hybrid workforce where humans and AIs collaborate.
While Goldman says Devin will handle tedious tasks, its adoption adds to growing concerns about widespread job displacement across Wall Street.
And for more on the story, I spoke with Anshul Gupta.
Anshul, one of the co-founders of Actively, backgrounds as AI researcher. We're building what we call go-to-market super intelligence for enterprises and fast growth companies to help them increase the revenue per rep and drive sales efficiency and productivity with AI.
For my first question for Anshul, I asked him, if Devin can already handle full stack engineering tasks, how long before we see agentic AI enter roles like sales, legal, or finance?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the jury is still out on, whether you can kind of be a fully agentic sort of software engineer. Internally, for example, our engineering team uses Cursor, which is more of a co-pilot, but Devin is more an autopilot, and that's happening in every domain. Which is, there's the battle between effectively labor augmentation versus labor replacement, right? And so, there is, I think, a set of tasks that autopilot agents can do really well. They're like basic and repeatable, but I think for really complex use cases, the combination of human and machine are what's going to drive the best outcome. We kind of think there's a third paradigm in between co-pilot and autopilot, which is you have these really intelligent machines which are trained on outcomes that you're trying to drive that are guiding the humans on what they need to do next, rather than the other way around where the human is going back and forth Q&Aing with the machine, or it's the machine doing everything themselves. And we see that in the sales domain too as being the most kind of successful balance.
So last week, Jackson, we talked about how CEOs are starting to say it plainly, right? AI is going to eliminate a lot of white collar jobs.
Yes.
This is the thumbnail we made for that. Jim Farley, CEO of Ford, and he predicted AI will replace literally half of all white-collar workers in the U.S., echoing similar warnings from Amazon, JP Morgan, and Anthropic.
Yeah, and Shopify CEO now requires managers to prove AI can't do a task before hiring someone. And now with Goldman Sachs bringing on hundreds, maybe even thousands of AI engineers like Devin, I asked Anshul my next question, are we witnessing the beginning of a hybrid workforce or the early stages of large-scale white-collar replacement?
Yeah, I think ultimately, it depends on the sort of domain or business function. I view some as, more natural areas that are cost centers that companies are always trying to bring down, and then other business functions are unbounded in terms of the value that they can bring to an organization. For example, if you look at customer support, the objective function is like we need to keep CSAT high, but we want to reduce costs to service kind of customer requests, right? And so you're seeing more of the autopilot mechanism, right, being used really well there, of like where customers can just chat, fully agentic, right, and that deflects 80 to 90% of requests. Now in sales and engineering, because they're directly tied more so to top line and to growth, you actually aren't just optimizing to cut costs, right? So you're also trying to like maximize your frontier of production, right, in terms of the amount of applications like at Goldman can ship out, or the amount of kind of customers that you can acquire and expand. And so that's where I think there's going to be a little bit of tension, and why we go back to like the combination of human and machine and intelligence driving the best outcomes.
For my next question for Anshul, I asked him, Goldman says Devin boosts productivity by 3 to 4 times over traditional AI tools. So what happens when companies start optimizing headcount around those numbers?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think truly, like, contingent upon the fact that the result or the ROI is driven, right, and the products drive the value in those complex environments, I actually think it's a win-win-win. I think it's a win for the company. I think it's a win for the individual, and I think it's actually a win for the kind of vendor or the technology. And the reason why is because I think if it works, right, same with sales, you get to the Pareto frontier where, like, in the sales world, everyone talks about the ratio between SDRs to AEs as an example, and wants to keep make that ratio as efficient as possible from a pipeline generation revenue perspective. If you can truly prove out that you have a technology that can drive that outcome, and orgs can change the ratio of like the number of engineers that you need to staff, it's a win-win-win, because the company is operating at their Pareto frontier, being as efficient as possible. Each human is maximally productive, and so they're going to be able to generate the most value for their business, get paid more, right? In sales, it's a half of your the money you make is in commissions, right? So or if you're able to drive more revenue as an individual, you're individually more successful, and so technology is making you more productive, better for the company, better for the individual, and then also it's better lock-in for the Devin or for the actively, because now if an org has shifted how they operate because of you, if you get removed, fundamentally they're going to have to likely go back to the old way. And so I think truly, but there's a lot of snake oil in the market, right? And so you have to be able to truly prove that out, and that's what we spend a lot of time building. It has to be the best product, best workflow, and has the right future vision and velocity. And so that's what I think is why everyone, whether it's Wall Street, investors, and companies are really excited about the potential here.
To close it out with Anshul, I asked him, should employers embrace a Devin or an actively in the workforce, or be more cautious about what this will do to the current job force?
It's a great question. I think the way I would put it is, humans that use AI are going to replace humans that don't use AI, and then humans that use the best AI, that's the most intelligent, continuously learning and driving outcomes, are going to replace the humans that are using basic AI. So it's always going to be a combination of the two, because I don't think AI will directly replace humans, especially in the sales domain fully, right? But that's sort of why I think embracing it both for the individual and the company makes the most sense.
That's an interesting take. I don't think we've heard that as much, that AI is not necessarily going to be replacing people's jobs, but the people who know how to use AI will be replacing the people who don't know how to use AI.
Thank you to Anshul Gupta for being on the show today.
All right, Jackson, what do we have next?
We're going back to rare earths again.
Absolutely.
The Trump-backed One Big Beautiful Bill is supposed to boost U.S. mining for critical minerals, but experts say it might do the opposite. It cuts key clean energy incentives like EV tax credits and a major production credit for mineral processing, which weakens the demand needed to justify big investments in domestic mining.
That's right. That means automakers are less likely to lock in long-term supply deals, and U.S. mines could struggle to get off the ground. Here is pictured a mine here in the United States. I don't actually know where that is, but I know it's in the United States, okay?
I'm pretty sure it's Mountain Pass.
Mountain Pass? Okay, where's that?
That's in California.
Dope.
We talked about this whenever you were gone on Venture Daily with Ted Feldman. This is, I believe, the biggest mining production, mountain facility in the United States.
Yeah, I promise I watched that episode. And especially as mineral prices crash and Chinese companies dominate the market. The law also ends a tax break earlier than expected, which is bad news for new mining projects that take years to develop.
At the same time, it adds stricter rules to block Chinese-owned or influenced firms from benefiting, tightening the definition of foreign entities of concern.
Right, and on screen we have here 85% of the world's rare earth metals come from China. That is a true stat.
For now.
And for now. While the law sets aside billions for stockpiles and supply chains, analysts say without strong demand signals, America's mining ambitions could fall short.
Did you make that graphic?
I did make that graphic. I added 2 graphics that had already been made, and I just put them together.
Nice.
China a little bit bigger, but America's on the come up.
Nice. I like it. But for a deeper dive into the story, I spoke with Josh Dorfman.
Yeah, thank you, Jackson. So I'm Josh Dorfman, the CEO and host of Supercool. We are tracking real-world climate solutions that cut carbon, grow profits, and outperform the status quo.
For my first question for Josh, I asked him, the U.S. says mineral security is a priority, but if the budget law strips EV subsidies and phases out tax credits, is it accidentally undercutting its own supply chain strategy?
I think that assumes that there actually is a real strategy in the first place. And what we've seen in this market is that there is none. And so this is trying to slap together some solutions that don't really add up. On the one hand, there are some billions of dollars potentially that could flow to rare earths and to mining on the kind of incentive side. But if you strip out what's in the bill for EVs to make them affordable, and if you strip out what's in the bill to try and encourage more renewable energy, then you're actually going to curtail demand, which is going to limit who's going to go invest in this stuff in the first place.
So he's basically saying they don't have a strategy. They didn't think this fully through. They've got things that are disagreeing with each other in the same bill.
Not a huge priority for them.
Yes.
Next question for Josh. I asked, without long-term demand from automakers, new mines won't get built. So how does the U.S. expect to compete with China's vertically integrated mineral dominance?
Again, I think the issue is who's looking at it from a very serious point of view. From an industrial policy point of view, we don't have an industrial policy. Fortunately, what we do have are a lot of innovators that are coming up with really novel solutions. There's, for example, a company called Cyclic Materials opening their now commercial scale factory in Arizona. That is the first company in the world that's figured out how to recycle rare earth metals, or rare earth magnets, I should say, the core component that we're all looking for, right? So we have innovation on our side, but we don't have a real industrial policy in place to address China and what China's done for the last 2 decades to put themselves into a position to dominate the future. We're still racing to catch up.
My third question for Josh. The Pentagon's backing of MP Materials supports rare earth magnet production critical for EVs and clean tech energy. Is this dual-use investment the win-win defense climate policy we've been waiting for, or a risky distraction from decarbonization goals?
No, this is exactly what you want to do. The thing about climate that I think people don't understand is they think climate strategy, let's say, businesses, innovation happens in a silo. Right, that it's separate from everything else. But everything's integrated and there are all these co-benefits. And so if you do rare earth magnets, if it's both strategic for defense and it has this co-benefit for encouraging and fostering, incentivizing more clean energy and decarbonization at the same time. We live in this world where we think there's a trade-off or a sacrifice, but the reality is that's actually not the case. So many of the things that are driving us toward a low carbon future we actually want also deliver all this upside for what's in America's interest, whether it's defense, economy, food security, you name it. These things really do align. So I think the move is very smart. It's going to be about the execution.
So speaking of execution, Mountain Pass is the main place where we are mining rare earths. But I was recently reading an article in the Wall Street Journal. It was an opinion piece about how Alaska has a lot of land that could be potentially a great place to mine rare earths, but it's a lot of the land's federal owned, and so
but I mean
here
there. This is a map of the U.S. rare earth deposits understudied by the Earth MRI project. I don't know. I'm sure there's way more rare earth deposits around the country that they just aren't studying right now.
Right,
but in Alaska,
a bunch in Alaska, and it looks like a bunch in Montana too. That's probably also federally owned. But I was asking Josh, could we potentially be mining in Alaska? And would that be a viable option for rare earth mining?
Right.
Well, I'm in favor of economic policies that certainly make us competitive where the world is moving. And the world is actually moving toward global clean energy, right? Global clean energy investments were $2 trillion last year. They're going to be $2 trillion plus this year. Fossil fuels don't even come close. They've never touched that, right? And so if you think about what you need, what's the infrastructure that's going to actually enable America to compete and play where the world is moving, then potentially you have to consider those kinds of solutions in Alaska as well. I don't know if Alaska makes total economic sense, but I do think everything should be on the table that elevates America's ability to compete in the 21st century, not looking backwards and trying to maintain 20th century fossil fuel-based technologies, but actually embrace the future of where the world's going, whether we're going to be part of it or not. That's what remains to be seen.
Drill, baby, drill.
Drill, baby, drill. Thank you to Josh Dorfman.
I don't think that makes any sense with rare earth. Drill is about oil.
I know. Drill, baby, drill for minerals.
Yeah. Okay, so explain to me why this is federal land, right?
Yes.
But you're saying that makes it actually harder to drill on or to excavate these rare earth minerals. Why? If it's federal land, shouldn't that make it easier that the U.S. owns the land and therefore they should be able to go in and just do it?
I think it's like a national park, like federal land. So it's protected land.
Protected
similar
land.
like Yosemite or Yellowstone, where you can't do any sort of mining, foresting, or.
So if you're the big man in charge in the U.S.,
if I'm Donaldo,
well, sure. If you're the president,
right?
Are you saying let's go up to Alaska? Let's start.
You know what I would do?
Putting shovels in the ground.
I would. I'm not sure if there's the science behind this, but I would find a way, if there's technology, to make sure, like, hey, these are rich with rare earth minerals in these areas.
You're just going to make sure that the numbers say that.
And if they don't, then we don't have to. But if they show it, it's going to be hard for me not to say no.
I see. All right.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
Thank you to Josh Dorfman for being on the show today.
All right, Jackson, that is it for Venture Daily. I'm back, as you may have noticed, I'm back for good. I was off on a little vacation and then another vacation, and no more vacations for Josiah.
You're done, dude.
I'm back.
No more PTO.
No more. Thank you so much for joining us. We helped you get a little bit smarter today.
And thank you to Content Stack for letting us film here at the Content Stack Experience Center here in Austin, Texas, in these nice, cool mugs. If you like today's show, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or X, leave us a like, a comment, and a review. Throw us a 5-star rating if you think we earned it. And as always, we'll see you tomorrow morning here at Venture Daily.